the ultimate power in the universe.
At last, we will reveal ourselves.
I have a bad feeling about this.
You are now tuned into LightSaber Radio. If you only knew the power of dark.
Here it comes.
Let's go.
You are now tuned into LightSaber Radio. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello there.
Ooh, we are here. We are back, and welcome to this Wednesday episode of LightSaber Radio. Yeah, we're here. We are here for our Book of Boba Fett recap episode because, oh my goodness, we've got so much to talk about.
Yes, we do. A lot. We have a lot.
A lot.
I sense there's not going to be agreement on this.
You sense a
No.
disturbance in
Well,
the force.
I don't know if there's
Yes.
not going to be an agreement, but there's not going to be. We might
The
not be all
negotiate-
on the equal ratings rating scale.
The negotiations will not be short.
Oh no, the negotiation.
No, they will not be.
Oh, damn. Hi to Chris, hi to Nick, and Kenyan Crusader, I do believe is my friend Alex. So hi Alex, welcome to LightSaber Radio. Good to have you in the chat. Welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. There was a poll up there. I don't know if it's still up there, but I put a poll up originally.
Aw.
I don't know what happened to it. It disappeared, so I don't know.
I just realized I was muted. I wasn't paying attention. So I've been talking for like the last couple seconds.
I was wondering, it's kind of quiet. What's going on?
Okay, now that I can catch up. Hi guys, hi everybody in the chat. Hi guys in the crew. Woo! LightSaber Radio. Okay, cool. I got all that out now that I can finally
Nice.
unmute myself for some reason.
I'm just gonna preemptively apologize for fluffing the intro. It was not my normal intro. Literally 2 seconds before we went live, I was talking about the Super Bowl and got distracted. It was a whole thing. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah,
For
she's
the
proud
fans
of
that
herself.
didn't-
She is very proud of
I
herself
am.
because she watched the Super Bowl,
I
even though she
did.
didn't
Brett
understand.
loves the Super Bowl.
This is her first time ever watching it, just so the fans know. Garrison and I got her to watch it, and all she did was ask questions, and she thought a lot of men were attractive
That's
and
great.
didn't understand the game
CJ.
whatsoever. Hey, you're going under the bus. If you're going to say it, I'm going to say it too. You didn't tell me that was off limits.
No, it was good. I
You're
really,
blushing.
really enjoyed myself. I am.
No.
It's the blush. It's the blusher. It's the makeup.
Oh yeah, it's the makeup. It's the makeup. My bad.
Hey Grogu, where's the best place?
yeah.
You asking Grogu where to eat?
That was
No,
nice.
I was posting on TikTok that we're live. It just kind of flipped. Once I posted, it said blue. I was like, oh, okay. What's up, Dylan?
Hey, Dylan. So, did everybody get a chance to rewatch the series before this episode?
Yes.
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 Yes. How did
Which
people consume
was a
it?
long,
Did you
a long
watch it?
time. I honestly,
really?
I didn't get to watch it. Well, I watched it the other day, all the way through, and then I rewatched it again, but I had to watch it in parts because I had stuff
Fair.
to do, and it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. What's up, Rob? What's up, Chris?
CJ, did you watch it like all together?
Yes. So I watched it independently, and then Tori and I went back through, and we watched it all the way through.
Mm.
And she had some questions. I had a lot of answers,
Yeah,
but mainly it was because she hasn't seen The Mandalorian.
that's
So
fair.
she's asking a lot of questions about that. But
Yeah.
most of it was very it was, to me, it was a lot better together than it was each week by week,
Yes.
until we got to finish. So
The
Absolutely.
story was more fluent when you watched it all together,
massively.
and I'm not going to start with the criticism yet. I think we should get farther along in the show. But there was
All right.
what
I'll
I
wait.
said the other day, and everybody that's listening, I will upload the 1313 podcast that we did
Yes.
with them, so it'll be on their page and on our page on our YouTube, and you can see what I said about it. And I still feel the same way,
Yeah.
but a little bit. Like, I still feel the same way, but I understand why the ratings is where it's at. I seen where it is, and I kind of talked about it last night. If you guys didn't get a chance to check out the show last night, I kind of, there's reasons. There's certain reasons that kind of dropped it down.
Yeah. Garrison, how did you feel? Did you get a chance to sort of watch it all together?
What do you want me to wait with criticism, or do you want me to just go for it?
He's got criticism.
I was hoping we could start off a little more gently
Fair.
before we delve into the. I want to celebrate it before we
So-
critique it.
Okay, so I didn't watch it like all at once,
That's fair.
right? But it was like a lot quicker, obviously.
Yes.
It was like within the week, obviously. But I watched like the last 2 episodes like right back to back. I probably watched them like 2 at a time with
Nice.
Addison. And yeah, I'll wait. For the,
That's
the
fair.
criticism.
That is absolutely fair.
I'll just say it did not get better.
So I watched this both episodically as it came out, and I watched it today all together. This is my theory. This is my big theory, everybody. Are you ready? I spoke to CJ about this. What I think we're actually watching is 2 mini-series that share one finale. So if you watch episodes 1 to 4, you've got Book of Boba Fett, you've got flashbacks, explanation, story, updated, what's going on. Separate that from episodes 5, 6, and 7, which are a Mandalorian miniseries, like we're looking at sort of series 2.5. And then they both share a finale. So what you end up with when you watch it all together is this kind of long form movie, and the pacing makes so much more sense. Oh my goodness, it flows so much better together.
It does when you watch it together, because when you watch it separately, you're like, what the hell is going on, man? This don't even make sense. And then you watch it all
constantly
together.
left questioning and not understanding what was going on, but watching it together, I think, because obviously there were rumors that this was originally going to be a movie. It was originally sort of posted and pitched as a movie, and it got moved and rearranged because of Mandalorian and all of this. This was written before Mandalorian happened, so they've really chopped and changed. But yeah, I think if you sit, and I think Garrison would have experienced some of that watching it 2 at a time, that kind of separation of those storylines, but they do fit together because they share this finale at the end. If that was like a Marvel movie, that finale is like Act 3. So suddenly it doesn't feel rushed. Suddenly it doesn't feel like we've been pushed into this huge finale with the Rancor and the fighting and the robots. It's nicely paced. It really is. I can't argue against that at all. And I'm so glad that like Kyle and Gat, like you guys have been able to experience it that way.
When I watched it all together, and I sit there and watched the whole thing, I was sitting there and I'm critiquing everything. You know, I'm looking at everything as a critic, not as somebody I'm looking at it as a whole.
Agreed. Same.
Yeah.
And like the visuals, most of them, like 98% of the music, the score, all the backgrounds, the sounds, they're good. Some of the CGI just didn't hold up to, you know, a decent standard. Like, it's funny, we get better CGI out of some cartoons than we did, or out of some previews like the one we seen yesterday, some trailers of some video games than we did in the Book of Boba Fett, which is a major production for Disney. So that kind of left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Like, oh man, this CGI looks like crap, man. Y'all could have done way better than this. And I think once again, it was something that was rushed. They were trying to get it done. They're trying to get it out. You got COVID. You got all these issues.
Oh, massively.
So they're working through all these different things while they're trying to get this ready. And I think they just slacked a little bit on the CG. But like I said, the aesthetics and everything like that worked pretty well together. There was some things that just kind of didn't make sense, even watching it as a whole. Like, what? Like, that don't even make sense. But it was a lot better. And I do agree with you that it was, when you watch it in sections, and actually I think it's like, because the Luke and Ahsoka whole part, I mean, that big chunk that they left there, it was kind of like, y'all could have skipped over all that and just, you know, did some little quick stuff and then asked and went more into Boba Fett. I didn't like the fact that, you know, you had a whole episode that, you know, Boba Fett was in there for 5 seconds. It's like, dude, the show is
gave us
Boba
a
Fett.
Rancor training moment instead of Luke
you know,
training
something.
Grogu.
They could have done something else that better fit that. They could have really brushed that part of showing Grogu what you have to choose, and Luke doing a quick little training instead of spinning the big chunk. And I think they did that because they knew that they needed to draw us in. They needed to give us that, oh, look at Grogu. Look at, oh, yeah, Luke's training him. Oh, Ahsoka's there. Oh, we got to have this, you're just like your father moment and all that crap. They felt like we needed that. And I don't think it was a bad idea. I just think they should have shrunk it up a little bit and gave us something else. They could have put the Rancor part, like CJ said, in there, and that would have made a lot of sense.
Well, it
Yeah.
would have been. It would have made sense because
I
you
feel
have
like we
Luke
finished.
you have Luke training Grogu, and then you have Danny Trejo training Tamara Morrison on how to ride a Rancor.
It would have
in
been
the
a
show.
nice parallel, yeah.
Yeah, it just a
I
back and
wonder
forth, like ever so slightly. Like how
I-
violent the Rancor scene would be, and then how
Yes.
gentle Luke's being with Grogu.
Yes.
It would have really complemented each other on how training in the universe is very different with certain things, and I think it would have
Yes.
complemented each other perfectly. But they didn't do that.
I wonder if this is something obviously you guys are aware of, like fan edits. Like people have fan edited the prequel movies to remove and change and adjust the storylines. I wonder if Boba Fett would benefit from a fan edit where Grogu's training is more spaced out across the episodes rather than being in this block, because it's been like 3 days since he left his dad. It could have been made to feel a lot longer, and I think that would have benefited the pacing of the show, especially being released episodically.
And they
I
could have got
agree
rid
with
of
that.
some of that. They could have got rid of some of the flashbacks. Still, it was just
Yes.
like, all right, we didn't need this long flashback for a whole episode. Like
Maybe
this,
not
I
even
like some of the
flashbacks,
Tusken stuff.
just maybe not even doing it in a flashback form, doing it in a singular episode that is all of those flashbacks together. So it is one episode where this is the past and now we're in the present.
yeah,
The
that would've been
flashbacks
nice.
got tiring, I think. Garrison, sorry, your point.
No, you're good. I would totally agree with kind of spacing Grogu out. The thing that I keep seeing is like so many people are like, "Oh, it'd be better if it was binge watched, right, all together."
Yeah.
And like, while that might be true, they released it as a TV show, and I think TV shows need to be able to be watched separately. Not like the average person doesn't have time to watch 7 hours of a TV show all in one sitting, right?
I
like,
think, I agree.
if you wanted it to be all together, you would have made a movie.
I think Netflix conditioned us to be used to the
Right.
concept of binge watching. I think Nick's point as well, it was written with the intent to be released all at once because this is what they did with The Mandalorian. It's quite a common thing for these sorts of shows. But the time we got it, Disney had locked into those
Right.
weekly episode schedules.
And
we missed
if you're
out.
going, if you want it all together, make it as a movie. But if you're going to make a TV show, it needs to hold up to being watched separately. I think.
Yeah.
While it might have been better being all together, and that might be true, when you're making a TV show, you need to understand that it needs to be good separate as well.
And you're giving us a 7-day period to think about it. So when you sit there and you do that, you literally, it has to be captivating. Like, yeah, there are going to be some episodes where they can't be. Like, you can't really make it every episode captivating because you lose a lot of depth in the story if you keep trying to throw certain things into it. So, like, yeah, we're going to have those fillers or the really slow episode, which is understandable. But you have to keep us intrigued to want to keep coming back for more. I had a freaking breakdown. Episode 4 of the show? Because I was adamant that they just screwed the character completely. I was literally on the verge of tears. And then that next week, it gave us a little bit more depth, a little bit, hey, this is what Din's doing in this moment. Hopefully this helps you, understand that this is where Din's going to come into play. And then Luke came in and it was like, all right, I'll hold on. And then it just slaps us with that finale. And it's just kind of, it would have been better, like I said, if it was together.
Yes.
For you guys, was there much because it was week by week, they had a lot more opportunity for like a cliffhanger to make you, oh man, I can't wait for another week. Did you guys feel like that? Because for me personally, I didn't feel like, oh man, I can't believe I have to wait a week. I was like, oh, whatever, it's just a week. There wasn't that much of a cliffhanger element to make me or like an engaging to make me want to come back for the next episode.
And I think
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and because I felt the same way, and I think Charlie brought up a very good point. That's like the first 4 episodes. There was nothing. It was just story, and the story was kind of incoherent. Like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And then we get to the 5th one, and when they brought Mando in, it was like Mandalorian is here, and it kind of, okay, what's going on with the Darksaber? Even though that really didn't play out nowhere in the series, and I think it's going to be more in the Mandalorian series, but it gave you like, okay, why can't he hold the saber? It gave us something to talk about. It really gave us something to want to see the next episode so we can see what was going on. Then the next episode, they hit us at the end with Grogu, here you go. Which one is he going to choose? Then you're like, oh my God, man, what is he going to choose? What's going to happen? What's going on? Then in the last episode, of course, it's a finishing episode, so they don't leave you on a cliffhanger. Well, they should have anyways. That way we could be more.
They did anyway.
Would want season 2 more. But they kind of just left it as, okay, now he's running the town and he's a nice guy and everybody loves him. I still think, I understand that they did it to make Boba Fett a good guy. Boba Fett's not a good guy. He's the bad guy. And they wanted to create Boba Fett the good guy.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I'm like, okay, but why? I just don't understand why make him a good guy. There's no need. People loved him being a bad guy.
At least make him an anti-hero. If you're going to do the good route, make him an anti-hero where
like
he's
Punisher
got the
or something.
he's got a
100%.
Punisher aspect to him.
I feel like that's what
his character.
Right. And I feel like that's what a lot of fans were expecting when they advertised Boba Fett. They're expecting either a villain or at the very least an anti-hero because that's the character of Boba Fett. And I feel like Disney was a little scared to kind of make that character, so they made a totally good guy character, which some people might like, but I feel like for a lot of people who were expecting Boba Fett, it felt a little flat.
I think there's been this theme within Disney shows recently regarding sort of emotional journeys and understanding and creating a deeper relationship between the character and the audience. Something I kind of loved about the show. I've grown to know Boba Fett over this series. As someone who's experienced and survived trauma, I understand how coming close to death can change your whole perspective on life. Like, I understand now. You're right over there, Kyle.
Oh no, I'm just experiencing death now. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Just for everybody in the listeners, I'm having some issues, and they not figuring out what's wrong with me, and they're kind of bad. So, to experience, I think that's what kind of even something like that. It gave me like I'm looking at the world differently. I'm looking at the things that I watch differently, and I think that's what gave me a little bit more hope. Because literally from after watching the series, it was about to get like a 3 score from me. Like, it was not good. There was a lot of just missed opportunities, a lot of bad things that happened. But after rewatching it and like looking at the world in a different view, it kind of made me open my eyes and say, look, like, find out what the meaning of it is. Like, what is the true meaning? And the true meaning of this is because of hope, you have the ability to reconcile your issues. We have an ability to change and be something else. And I think that's the underlying story. That's the underlying meaning in the show. Is that they're trying to show you that no matter how bad your past is, you can always change that and become a better person. And I think that's what they try to make Boba Fett do. We all expected Boba Fett to be Boba Fett. And we got this whole new Boba Fett. And then when you really look at the story, he survived the Sarlacc. He gets out, even though I think that was kind of weak the way they should have did way better than that. But okay, whatever. He got out. And he's sitting there and he's looking at the Tuskens. And he's really looking at them, and he's like, look at this family. Look at this. Look at the unity that they have. Look at that. And that changed him. It caused him to want to reconcile his differences. Like, we know him as no evaporations, or, you can't just kill people.
No
or disintegrations, whatever. Same thing, evaporation, disintegration, whatever.
They
It's all
both
the
go
same.
poof. No, I mean, they both disappeared.
No disintegrations, and this is the guy that he is. He's the guy that catches his bounty. He's the guy, dead or alive. And for him to be able to turn around and say, I don't want to be that person no more. I don't want to have that anger no more. I don't want to be this no more. It's the same kind of way of Luke bringing Vader back. Like, Vader's like, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to do this. Let me pick Palpatine up, throw him down this hole, and he'll survive, and it doesn't matter because he's coming back.
All that work I did after getting shocked to death, dying in front of my son.
Nothing.
Nothing.
It's just that people can change. And I think that's something that George has kind of pushed from the very beginning, and now Disney is kind of taking that over. And you really look at it like how these characters are changed. Boba changed. The Bad Batch changed. Somebody comes into their life. Most of the time, it's a child. I don't know why they're on this child kick. But, that was great. We didn't get that in Book of Boba Fett. There wasn't no kids.
That was really nice. There was no kid aspect except for Din flying in the N1 Starfighter, and he waves at that child. And then we got Grogu at the end of it, and Grogu kind of here and there.
It wasn't based on this child, but it was just based. Well, I guess there was a child because it was the Tusken child.
Or the
Rancor. That kind of changed, Boba's book. But they got this child aspect that they want to put into the episodes, and it causes these hardened men to become better people, to become father figures.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really a point of that Disney is trying to show the unity of family and how you can change. So when you look at it in that aspect, it's not as bad as I was really going to put it originally. I was like, man, Boba Fett sucks, man. This dude turned into a girl. I'm agreeing with Garrison over here. The way we call him Bitch Fett. He's not Boba Fett no more. But he had to stand up to be a better person. And he did in the end of the show. I still think that they could have done way better, so I'm not going to rate it super high. But I think that the what is the word I'm looking for?
Redemption?
Well, not redemption, but I'm thinking of another word. I can't think of it. I'll think of it later. But, him just coming back and being this other person, and now he's in control of a town as not Jabba the Hutt, not the bad guy, but the good guy that's going to make sure things are going to go good. At the same time, selling some spice, because I'm pretty sure he got all that spice and he's going to have to make some money back.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to have to do something to make some money back.
He's going to rebuild the town. He's the one that destroyed it with the Rancor. He's going to have to sell some spice. Just take it to Coruscant. Just take it to Coruscant. They already had death sticks. They might as well have some spice while they're at it.
Garrison, in your professional opinion, how should Mos Espa recoup its economic losses? It's such a difficult time.
Yeah, they're hosed. Well, because I just thought it was funny because before I get on to Kyle's point, but Boba Fett his whole thing was like, I want to protect this town. Spice is killing its people. But then he goes on to use a Rancor and completely wrecks the town.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a little bit funny. But to Kyle's point, I could totally see it because you see a lot in Star Wars, like the idea of like redemption. Redemption's a huge theme and kind of changing and becoming better. And if that was the case, I guess I could see it. I just feel like it was really abrupt. Like it was like first season, it wasn't the Boba Fett we're expecting. I didn't see as much of a progression, I guess, as I would hope to see from that kind of storyline. It was just kind of boom, he's a totally different person instead of getting to see a little bit more of that transformation, I guess.
It's also been I'm going to pull up Nick's comment in a sec before it disappears in the chat. It's been such a long time since we've been with Boba Fett. Like Kyle was there. Kyle was there when we first met Boba Fett. And you and I and CJ have watched that at a much later date. And it's canonically, like timeline-wise and literal release-wise, it's been so long since we've been with that character. So of course it feels abrupt. Of course it feels sudden. I wanted to pull up Nick's point. He says, in the films, I still feel that Boba Fett was left fairly blank. A lot of the badassery we attached to him was largely extended universe material, which even George was never married to. That's a fair point.
That is fair.
It is. It is a fair point. But, I mean, even in the movies, when Darth Vader tells you no disintegrations, that kind of tells you that he's one of those type of people. And then even if you go into the Clone Wars, and even him being a child, he was taught to be a killer. And his whole objective was to take out Mace Windu because Mace killed his father. So, his overall progression that we seen on a little bit that we did see, because we didn't see a lot, but it did show him as being a badass, being somebody that's gonna.
I'm not counting Clone Wars in that.
Well, with that, like that's like thinking Disney's not stupid. Disney knew the majority of the fan base's perception of Boba Fett, even though like it technically wasn't in the movie's canon, most people viewed him a certain way, and I think Disney knew that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think about it. When he walks into the room You know, when they first you got Darth Vader saying that. Then when he walks into the room, when they come into the dining area, and he walks into the room menacing. He doesn't look like the good guy. He looks like the guy that's gonna kick some ass and take some names. That's the guy he looks like. And then when he says he's no good to me, dead. You know, these are things that make him out to be the bad guy. And then when you go into Return of the Jedi, I mean, he goes to take on Luke, without no hesitation. That is some badassery Mandalorian stuff right there. That's not nobody that's a good guy that's coming like that. He's a bad guy. He shows that he's a bad guy throughout the movies. When you don't even look at Clone Wars, he shows that he's the bad guy in the movies. And he's a very, oh man, why is my brain not working? Menacing person when you look at him in the movies.
Well, if
He
you
just
look
looks
at
menacing.
the Christmas special is a prime example of it too. The Christmas special was canonized. And if you watch the Christmas special with the Wandering Wookiee, he turns on Luke and Chewie in the Christmas special and tries to do what, a bad guy would do. Oh yeah, I'm going to slowly sneak in and kind of be like the nice guy. And then I'm going to get what I want out of it and be the bad guy and take out everybody. Like that's where I think everybody got that he's a bad guy aspect on top of Empire. Yeah, on top of Empire and Return. And that's what we thought is like, he's the villain. He tried to screw over Luke and Chewie and 3PO and all them. And then he tried to fight Luke Skywalker, like Kyle said. Out of anybody I'd want to walk into a room and fight, I ain't fighting dark cloaked freaking dope ass Jedi Luke Skywalker right there. I'd be like, I'd rather fight the Wookiee. That's where I'm at with that.
When you think about it, I mean, his hatred for the Jedi because of what Mace did to his father. He had that hatred for the Jedi. So, and then you think about it, even at the end of The Mandalorian, he walks in, he don't say nothing, he don't do nothing really. He just shoots, just blast him. Bill Fortuna. Anyway. That's some bad guy shit. We're all expecting this dude's about to come in and take over all of Tatooine. He's about to kick some ass. And then they show this other thing. So I think the leading up to and the expectations of the fans for us to get original Boba Fett and then for them to change him is one of the things that caused the scores to be lower than I think what it is because and then a lot of to do with the hype because you got Robert Rodriguez talking about all filler, no thriller, and I was like, most of it was filler, and there was a little bit of thriller.
Talking about his own episodes, that's the hack.
But he did episode 1. Episode 1 was like, "What are you talking about, man? Dude, this episode sucks, man. This was terrible."
Yeah, like in their advertisement, they were advertising that Boba Fett that we knew, all killer, no thriller. So I think they knew, and they were promoting the kind of Boba Fett people were expecting. Sorry, Charlie, what were you saying?
No, I was just going to say, I think it sort of ties into this fact that even we had kind of young Boba in Clone Wars, but it has been such a long time since we've seen Boba Fett. And obviously that little bit we got in The Mandalorian was that little taste, that little morsel. And you're left.
In there.
I think a lot of us, obviously I am so here for a whole character redemption arc. I love the person that Boba Fett has become. I want to be that man's friend. I want to hang out with him. I love that. I think a portion of the fan base wanted to indulge in that unhinged, aggressive, kind of terrifying, imposing Boba Fett that we see. Right. And Alex pointed out that it's also hugely to do with the armor and the costuming. That costume is such a huge part of the Boba Fett intimidation factor.
Well, Dylan just brought up a good point, but it's a point that we kind of discussed a little bit ago. He said just because he's a bad guy doesn't mean he's a bad guy, but they should have advertised it as he's the anti-bad guy. Or he's the anti-hero.
Right.
And with them not doing that, basically they propagandaed us. They use propaganda of Boba Fett, the real Boba Fett, to get us to watch this new Boba Fett. And it just kind of left a bad taste in your mouth. Like, well, this is not what I expected.
Right.
I expected something else. So it kind of tainted you know, the show as a whole, in a whole, you know, even though I can go back and I can watch it and I can appreciate, you know, the season, and I can sit back and I can see what the good parts of it. It's still, there's still that mental blockage in my head that's saying, this is not Boba Fett. This is not what y'all told us we were going to get.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the biggest things that caused people to just look at it in the wrong sense. You know, they didn't look at it as, okay, this is an entire new series. This is not the Boba Fett that we're used to. This is an completely new transforming Boba Fett into the anti-hero person. We could, because we were all, our expectations was for something else. So we're looking at this like, what's happening? What's going on? But knowing that now and going back and watching it, like I said, you know, with my eyes open, I could see it as a whole and I could see it better. But it's still, like I said, it's still like that blockage there. That's just like, dude, then this is not what I expected. This is not what you told me I was getting. You told me I was getting Boba Fett. You showed it at the end of The Mandalorian. He walks in and shoots Bib Fortuna. No questions asked. That's Boba Fett. He ain't going to talk to you. He just going to shoot you in the face. And then you give us this redemption story, which I don't mind the redemption story. I don't mind becoming a bad guy to a good guy. We see it all the time in movies and everything. That's something that draws us in. It's just not something that should have been done with Boba Fett. It should have been done, or it could have been done a different way to make it seem more realistic. It kind of seems just fake. It seems like, okay, this is what's going on. Like, I don't get it. It
was more forced than fake. I feel like it was more forced upon.
Yes,
it was he's going to be the good guy. He's going to save the town. He's going to see that his ways were the wrong way. Instead of being like him having a reflection moment, it was so forced that it just came off wrong. Like instead of him, like when he was about to hit the Tusken kid, like the badass stuff he would have done 20 years, or not at that moment, it would have been 5 years before he got out of the Sarlacc. He would have beat the hell out of that Tusken kid.
Damn straight.
Hit me with the stick, I'm gonna hit you with the stick. Like he would have. The thing is like with that is, if you would have progressed that, like he realized that, hey, you know, I was a kid that used to piss off my dad, and my dad smacked the hell out of me. I don't want to do that. And then he got the crap beat out of him by the Tuskens and trying to run and stuff. It would have been a better progression with it. Fine, but the fact that it was so pushed to the point where it's kind of didn't seem right, didn't seem like it fit the story very well, you know?
Didn't seem real.
Right.
Yeah, it didn't seem real. It didn't seem genuine. That's the word I'm thinking of, is genuine.
And again, like it's a totally valid point to go that whole redemption arc and him becoming a good guy. But then let us see that struggle. Let us see that inner struggle and that inner change. Let us see that progression. But I feel like we didn't get that. It was just drop. He's a good guy now.
I think that's what the flashbacks in the back. I think the back to tank was meant to be the narrative device for that struggle, for that reflection, for that like going back on what he'd been through and reevaluating his choices. Mm-hmm. But it didn't feel that way because it wasn't necessarily structured the best or necessarily written too well together. I'm not criticizing Favreau's writing in the slightest. Arguably, some of the dialogue is a little clunky at times and the exposition is a little stretched. That's okay. We can excuse that. But I don't think the back to tank and flashback worked as the narrative device that they intended it for, because you guys are left like this. I also wanted to point out, because like you guys quite fairly brought up sort of extended universe and Legends of Boba Fett and kind of what an epic character he was. I didn't have any knowledge base for this, so I sat and took some time to read about this other universe Boba Fett. I get it. I understand what you guys were on about now. Like,
finally! Now you know.
Well, it's not even.
I apologize for not.
The books were based off of. The books were really based off of Star Wars, what we seen in movies and the Clone Wars the original trilogy, and you know, you got to look at it also is he is trained by people that his father worked with, that his father knew. They took him in. What's her face? The chick, she's bad. I mean, she took on Ahsoka. She's a bad, the one girl that, I can't remember her name, but the one that took him in. And really, I mean, she's no joke. And she took him in and she started training him. That's why I didn't understand when they jumped over to Cad Bane training. I'm like, dude, what? That don't even fit with Clone Wars. Like, I don't remember Cad Bane ever training him in Clone Wars.
The reason why they couldn't bring Aura Singh in is because Tobias
Didn't
Beckett
she die?
Tobias Beckett from Solo killed Aura Singh. And Lando thanks Tobias in the bar. You're Tobias Beckett. You killed Aura Singh. I owed her a lot of money.
I never clocked that.
And that's why we didn't get Aura Singh. That's why we got Cad Bane. I think,
but I still didn't understand because I don't remember anything. It must be something in the comics or something because I don't ever remember anything that had to do with Cad Bane training Boba Fett at any time.
Originally, there's a deleted scene in the Clone Wars that Cad Bane and Boba Fett had a shootout, and they both shot each other at the same time in the head. That's why there's that metal plate on Cad Bane's head at the end of the movie.
In Boba's helmet.
That's where they got it from.
And,
after that, Cad
But
Bane
them shooting each other doesn't explain Cad Bane training him.
Well, the thing is that fight led to Cad Bane taking Boba Fett under his wing.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of depth to it. There's a lot of stories, and there's a couple comics behind it, but there's not a lot of depth to it because it didn't fit the storyline of Boba Fett. Because Cad Bane wanted to be Jango Fett. He wanted to be that top dog spot. You can't train Jango's son and then have literally another Jango Fett taking that number one top dog bounty hunter spot. It would just
he did it anyway because everybody knows Boba Fett is the dopest bounty hunter. So I don't know. The Mandalorian kind of took that. I think the Mandalorian kind of took that spot.
Yeah,
Mandalorian is dope.
This is more of a critique on the writing. I feel again, I'm terrible, aren't I? I wish we'd had more of an insight. Obviously, I'm aware that the kind of unreleased Clone Wars episodes that Favreau has spoken about at various celebrations don't necessarily count as part of the current storyline, but I wish we'd had a little more fleshing out of both Boba and BK's relationship and also Boba and Cad Bane. These are such essential characters to his storyline and his history, and I feel like I came out of the exchanges knowing nothing. Or at least not much more than I did in the first place.
I said it in the Star Wars in 10 episode, I think. Is it today's episode or the one that's coming out tomorrow that I just recorded? I said that, Cad Bane, that Boba killed Cad Bane, and, he will be missed. He was had good work ethics. But I don't truly believe that Cad Bane is gone. I don't think
I
he
don't
died.
either. Nick, that is a very good point. You're absolutely right that if you listen and break down the dialogue from the last bit of Book of Boba Fett, their fight, it does actually canonize the deleted scene and the unreleased scene, so we can include that as part of the current story. Love that.
All right, Nick, I need you to get off this canon shit because none of this shit is canon. None of it is canon.
It literally says based off of Star Wars characters.
Yeah, anything that says based on is not canon. That's out of George's own mouth. You can look it up. It's all over. Every time George says, if it says based on canon, it's not George Lucas. It's not canon.
What I want to do, what I would love to do is I broke my final review down into sort of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories. Would people feel comfortable going through the categories and then you've got a chance to sort of level your critiques and various... Is that good?
Yeah, as long as we do an overall one at the end.
Oh no, that's I calculated an average.
And then before we do that, I have the three top, basically where you would find your ratings for everything. Yes. I got IMDb, I got Rotten Tomato, and I got the
I don't like Rotten
Metacritic.
Tomato. I'm just gonna put that down.
And we'll pull all three of them up, and then we'll kind of them as your top three. So I got them all ready and set, and we'll pull them up, and then we'll kind of give our thoughts on the overall rating system.
So my first category for scoring the whole series of Book of Boba Fett was the writing, because obviously this is like the most essential. For me personally, it was classic Favreau. There were some really beautiful moments, some really lovely character interaction, some wonderful callbacks to all of the films and Clone Wars. That was fantastic. But as I talked about in a couple of other episodes, the script was stretched. There are obviously places where not much has been written down, not much direction, not much filler. And Rodriguez and the other directors were left to fill those gaps. And you recognize it sometimes. There is moments of clunky exposition. There are moments of awkward, kind of misplaced dialogue. A little odd here and there, but overall I gave it like an 8 out of 10. Because I personally really enjoyed some of those aspects. How do you guys feel about the writing?
So I thought personally that the writing was, like you said, it was clunky. There was some things that just didn't fit together. It was like he wrote these at like multiple different times. Like he wrote like one, and it might have been like a month or two later he just wrote the next one, and he didn't go back and read the first one. So and then he just wrote the next one, because they kind of, the way they jump and some of the things they do is like, what? If I was to rate the writing, I'd probably give it a 6.
Okay.
I would give it a 6 overall for the writing.
Garrison?
See, for me, I think writing is the most important thing, because I think a TV show sets out to, it's the purpose is to tell the story. It can convey meanings within that story, but the overall purpose is to have a story, and then underlying purposes come through that. So like I'm willing to overlook, a messed up costume or messed up music or whatever, as long as the story is good. And for me, the story was the worst thing about it. For me, I would rate the story like a 3.
Okay. That's fair. CJ?
Writing, like I agree with Garrison. Writing's very important. It ties in everything. It makes more sense. Dialogue gives us the best interactions. We have the best lines out of some of the movies from just the dialogue itself. Honestly, the writing to me was very lackluster. It was like you both said, it was very clunky. It was very misplaced. If you would have given us a little bit more depth and a little bit more substance to the writing, I would have been more satisfied. And honestly, I'd have to give the writing a 5.
Okay. Those are some really nice points, guys. This is fantastic. My next category was music. The score.
The score was done decently, but there was some times that I think the editing that had to do with the music was just misplaced, and it caused you to lose interest in the scene or get shifted out of the scene before the scene was up. I'm a big person when it comes to Foley and music, and it just it really shifted my my preference of what was going on in the scenes. Like, well, okay, wait a minute. Like, I thought this was happening, and the music changed either too quickly or too slowly, or the Foley changed the scene because something was happening, and the Foley came in too late. So I have to.
You're quite like on with that sort of thing.
Yeah, I really critique that. I can get past, as long as the story makes sense from point A to point B, and it did. It was just a little bit clunky, but when the music and the things that can really draw you out of a scene or push you into the next scene, or a gun blaster goes off and you hear it 5 seconds after they shoot, it's like, wait, well, hold up, what? That to me, I give that gets like a 4 from me, because there was several mistakes that I caught over in it, and it bothered me. It was like they did, like I said, and this goes with the story too, and the Foley and the music. It seemed like it was rushed. It really seemed like it was rushed, and they made mistakes because they didn't go back and really double check stuff. So I don't blame that on the musicians or the Foley artists. I blame that more on the editors. The people that were editing it just didn't catch things that they should have caught. So, but since we're talking about music overall and sounds, I'd have to give that a 4.
Okay, Garrison.
I would agree. I think there's definitely some music and some sounds that didn't fit as well. With that said, I really enjoyed some of the new stuff, like the Boba Fett music that they put in.
Yeah.
At first I was like, yeah, it's okay, but it grew on me so fast, and you know,
Hey.
like it started. Yeah, I started to
Oh.
really like it.
That Edwin or whatever, however you say his name, the composer, that dude is dope. Especially if you watch. Have y'all went and watched the little thing where the interview where he's like showing how he makes some of this music? Like this dude is not like a regular musician.
No.
He creates things off of like music that is like, dude, you made that off of like
Ludwig
that?
Göransson.
Yeah, that's how it is.
He's a very famous, very
Well, he did all the
extensive-
music for the Mandalorian too. So but that dude does some, like, you got to go watch the little interview thing with him, man, where he's showing how he makes this stuff. I mean, he's not your typical. I mean,
No.
he'll use some bamboo and make some crazy sound out of it, and it'll fit in the music. Like, dude, that's so dope. That's just,
He Charlie
that dude is
Puth's music? Really? Charlie Puth is a prime example of that. He'll find any noise and like it.
Yeah.
He'll take it with his phone, put it on his computer, and then somehow tweak it, and it sounds amazing. Like the song Light Switch, literally the beginning,
you
the
can use
clicking.
that, Nick.
He's using a literal light switch.
He's done Black Panther, Mandalorian, Tenet.
Yeah,
Like
that dude
hugely
is dope.
talented.
That dude is, I mean, he's done some amazing things with, and it's just, what gets me is the way he creates music. He's not one of those people to say, okay, I want this sound, so I'm going to use a guitar. He'll be like, here, let me use this bamboo stick. I can make the same sound out of it. And it's like, what are you talking? This dude made it out of a stick like this. He's like swinging a stick in the air and it's making this sound, and then he puts it in the music. That's to me, anybody that's creative like that. I love people that are creative and come up with new ideas to do things. And he's like, y'all got to go watch that video.
Garrison, I'm so sorry. I think I missed your rating. I apologize
Oh, I
for
didn't
the
get to it.
music.
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
You're good. Yeah. With that said, like I thought the music was good. It wasn't edited great, but I thought the music overall was good. I'd probably give it like a 6 or 7.
Okay. We'll go with a 6.5. We'll go with a 6.5. We can do half ratings. That's allowed. CJ, how did you feel about the music?
I enjoyed the music. The Boba Fett theme song is my ringtone on my phone, which is really nice in my headphones, especially when I'm driving the haul truck and you're
I'll make sure to call you at least once a day then.
It's awesome. I enjoyed it. I mean, there were some points where it was a little off put, like it was a little late. Some of it was delayed, but overall, I enjoyed it. I think it was very clever. It was like Kyle just said, watching him and how he creates his music made me appreciate his music more. So I'd have to give the music in my eyes a good 7 or 8.
Nice.
I know it sounded like Sports Center, Chris. Don't judge me. It wasn't intentional.
I really loved the music overall, particularly the Boba Fett theme when it was mixed in with like Mando's theme, when you got bits of Yoda's theme. Like there were some gorgeous little callbacks. My only issue is that the main compositions weren't John Williams, and if it's Star Wars, I want John Williams. I will always want John Williams.
He's 90.
I don't
Let
care.
the man
No.
rest.
You want to know? That man isn't resting. That man has recently done a TV recording. He's done composing and writing for an unnamed TV show that has something to do with Disney, but we don't know what it is.
It's Star Wars because that's all
That
he
man
does.
is still going.
Well,
he's
It's
an
Star Wars.
absolute
I just
dreamer.
seen a thing, something he did all the music for some video game, so I'm guessing it's either Legos or
he
Oh,
probably
it might be
remasters
like a
music
Star
for
Wars.
Lego.
That's true.
but he just did all that music. It's one thing to compose music, it's another thing to like actually make the music. He composes. Williams is a composer. He writes the music.
Do you know what it takes
You know,
to write
he
music?
doesn't actually create the music. He has other people create it. He just writes it. And at
Shout
90,
out
he
him.
can still
He's
write
clapping
music.
John Williams.
Kenyon's
One of the
comment,
greatest
Will
composers.
him out. If he breathes, he can compose.
Yeah, I think he can still compose. All you got to do is this: write it down and then do this. That's all he has to do. You can do that
Oh,
at 90.
We got
You can, there ain't no problem doing that at 90.
I
He can sit down and do that.
I gotta educate you on music composition, you absolute monster. The only thing I didn't like, which may be a bit controversial, I didn't particularly enjoy the music when the mods were being fitted. That felt very not Star Wars, but I digress. I gave the music an 8 out of 10 for me because the main theme is everything that wins all of the points, and especially Ludwig. He's such a talented composer. Oh
Yes, Chris, I do agree with that. Disney will have him on retainer even
yeah.
after his death.
He's gonna be on ice
I think they
next
own
month.
everything that he has written down forever. So when he dies, they're gonna be like pop. They're just gonna take his stuff and just use it and stuff. Like, we're just gonna make a whole nother movie, use all his music.
My next category on my list was the visuals. So everything from the CG to the set dressing, backgrounds, costuming is a different section because I have to include that.
Well, we kind of got it, like, because this is the thing. I love the visuals and background and all that, but the CG just was like, there was some times like, oh, this is terrible. Y'all would have been better off just
examples.
Well, the whole Rancor, that just looked garbage.
The whole King Kong thing was a bit.
It was just like too much. Then if you go to the puppeteering with the Bantha, that was just freaking
no. You're
terrible.
not. I'm not.
That was so bad.
My
like,
Bantha
oh my
and the
God.
Bantha
Like,
babies alone.
like even, but if I had to rate it all together, I would probably say it's 6 just because the CGI was pretty bad.
That's
the rest
fair.
of it was wonderful. The rest of it was great.
Yeah.
But that CGI just hurt it so much.
Dylan said I knew you were going to mention the Bantha.
That was
My
just
Bantha
terrible.
and the Bantha babies alone. I liked when he threw the
Yeah.
whatever it was into.
I think we forget it.
I don't
That's
care. I
That's
enjoyed
the
that.
issue
That
with
was
the
a
visuals.
touchy
The
moment.
the little Vespas count as visuals, correct? They're in this.
Yes,
In
the
this
best
category?
visuals. If you want to
Okay.
slay them, that's fine. Please
That-
remember that
yeah.
is my culture, my country.
I'm fine. Vespas themselves go faster than that shit.
That's true. Nick, that's an excellent point. We've only ever seen the Rancor in Incredibly Dark Shadows, and that was done with a model and like stop motion. I don't think they quite anticipated the Rancor being in full double sun, blinding Tatooine sunlight. Like, I think that's why it doesn't look like a Bantha. That's
All right,
burned in my
Dylan. Yes,
head.
I mentioned the Bantha. Okay, we get it.
My Bantha. Oh man.
Harrison, how would you rate the visuals out of 10? Thoughts and
Flip.
feelings.
Excluding the Vespa gang, maybe like a 6. With them, like a 3. Like,
No, you can't be that horrible. That's so
Dude,
unfair.
It was so bad. It
Okay.
was so bad.
Man has spoken.
Fine. I'll go 4 or 5. Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. There we go. CJ, how did you feel about the visuals?
I agree with Garrison. The Vespas.
Did it take you out?
Honestly, it took me out.
It was taking it. Sorry
Go.
to interrupt, CJ. You finish. Sorry.
It was. Don't get me wrong. The Vespas looked cool. Like it was a great thing. But like Garrison said, Vespas can get up to almost 60 miles an hour. Like they can move.
Jesus, what Vespas are you riding?
Have you not? You have not seen a Vespa here in America then? Because they can almost get up to freeway speed here in Idaho. Like I've seen a few Vespas on the freeway here in Idaho.
Over
They are
here,
some-
it's like 20 miles an hour. Chase the old ladies on their little scooters. Like we're
No,
not.
they
we're
get
not turbocharging our Vespas, CJ.
Well, I worked in a scooter shop at like 17. They get up to 60 miles an hour. 60 miles an hour here. So if it would have been a faster chase scene, I would have been completely okay with it.
The messed up part about it is I seen that meme with the Seinfeld and they're chasing him in the scooters. The old people is chasing
Yes.
George in the scooters.
Yes.
Now every time I watch that part, that's all I see.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, dude, this is terrible.
Well, and like I understand. Okay, that's not fair to make the whole rating bad because that one scene. No, I think that one scene was that bad
That's
that
fair.
it makes the whole rating go down. Like it was that bad.
It was, yeah. And that to me it dropped because overall I gave it like a 7. But with the Vespa scene, I gave it a 5.
Okay.
Like if you can cut that scene out and make it kind of like,
Yeah.
if you just increase the speed on that scene itself, like just that chase scene, it would be a 6 or a 7. But with that scene and with how they did it, like a lot of those riding the wall, jumping onto the cart thing, like all that would have been better going at least 20 miles an hour faster. Just 20 more miles an hour faster. That's all I ask.
You guys are going to absolutely come for me. I gave the visuals like a good 9 out of 10 because, right,
Sorry.
sit with me here. First and foremost, do I need to say it? Live action, Night of 1,000 Tears. Did that not shatter your heart into a million pieces? Did that not take your absolute breath away? The Darksaber fight on the bridge. Actual Darksaber combat and somebody showing accurate, crappy lightsaber skills. Amazing. The Dyson ring. The circular space station out of Halo. What the heck? I'm not done. I am not finished. These gorgeously full and rich interior scenes. Those sanctuary scenes. It was so vibrant and so living, and I love that. Oversaturate me with that detail, please. Some beautifully touching callbacks. The only point that's deducted, because I would have given it a 10 out of 10, for those sodding Boston Dynamic robots. They didn't need to be in there. It was so immersion breaking for me. I saw them and I knew immediately what they were. And I was like, that's not Star Wars.
So what's your rating then?
Yeah.
My rating's still 9 out of 10. I only deducted 1 point for the horrible. I liked the Vespers. It's...
Can I put in a disclaimer?
Of course.
Just in case. I would 100% rather have like a 3 or 4 live action than a cartoon, for me personally.
That's fair.
Like live action almost always beats cartoon. Even with this level, like even with the Vespa scene, I'd rather have a live action than a cartoon.
Oh, it's gonna kill you to have to watch Rebels then, because you got to watch all of
Rebels is
I know.
gorgeous.
Like that was my biggest struggle with Clone Wars. As good as some of the story was, the cartoon just holds me up.
To me, Clone Wars' story picks up at the end of season 3 going into 4.
Yes.
100%.
That's all I've got to say. That's all I've got to say.
Rebels, I'm gonna tell you right now, Rebels storyline starts from the very beginning. It's an excellent storyline all the way through. So the story to me is a lot better than Clone Wars, just all around. Like Clone Wars was like, okay, Clone Wars gave you that feeling like all this stuff's going on, but you know what's going to happen. So it's like, okay, I already know what's going to happen. So, I know what's going to happen. Order 66 is going to happen. I know all this stuff. You're just showing me what happened in between. And you're like going kind of far with some of the things. Like, okay, we understand, Anakin's dope, but he ain't that dope. Come on, this dude just survives everything to become Vader. It was just it threw you off a little bit. Rebels doesn't do that. Like Rebels is more realistic. Like, okay, this is more like how it really is. So I think you might like it.
That's
okay.
fair.
What's the last one, Charlie? Or do we have two more?
Two more. The second to last one is costuming. I have to include this one because of my cosplay, and it's something that is really important to me personally when I watch new shows. Costuming details are so essential. I'm going to use the Galactic Star Cruiser as a comparison. Even though we had some really glamorous costuming, it was dirty, it was lived in, it was rough, it was worn. The attention to detail in some of these costumes was immaculate. And then there's the Galactic Star Cruiser. You see how those small things are so important. I'm going to give you
the Vespa gang. They were Galactic Star Cruiser level to me.
The Vespa gang would have fitted better in somewhere like Corellia, Coruscant. I saw somebody Photoshop a screen grab of the Vespa gang and just put Coruscant on the background. Oh my God, it makes complete sense. I think Nick pointed out earlier, it seems to be a leftover idea from Solo. And I think they just threw it in to fill time. So excluding the Vespa gang, I would give the costuming a solid 10 out of 10 because Mando's armor is insane. Boba's new armor is insane. Fennec Shan's costume is incredible. Hot Twi'lek ladies.
Okay, we really gotta work on you on this perfect. It just nothing is perfect.
I am allowed my happy time.
She's allowed to have one 10 out of 10. This is the one she gets.
Can't nothing be 10 out of 10. That means they didn't make one mistake, and I guarantee they made a mistake
All
somewhere.
right then, Chatty Gob, what did you give the costuming?
Costuming. I don't know. I thought the costuming was done pretty well. I mean, most of the costumes. I mean, Chrysanthemum's costume was just phenomenal.
How could I forget? Yeah.
Way good. Yeah.
All of the one of the things that kind of put me down is I don't know, it just looked kind of weird with the what's his face, Bosk people, whatever they're called.
The Trandoshans.
Yeah, the Trandoshans.
Yes, I brought this
They
up.
just kind of looked a little bit weird to me. It was like, y'all just the Trandoshans is just bigger. They're just bigger type people, and the costumes didn't fit the scenes to me. But looking at them, they look good. They just didn't kind of fit what the Trandoshans are. I thought the mayor, that was spectacular the way they did the mayor. I mean, that looked real good.
It was the moving of the gills and just
I think costumes I'll probably have to give a good 7, 8 somewhere right in there because the costumes was done pretty well.
Nice.
It didn't look as fake as like a lot of times you look at stuff, and especially in live action, it's like, dude, this just looks fake. They did a pretty good job of making it look realistic.
Chris wants to know if we're including the deep fake into the costume section.
I don't mean, I would view it just like what characters look like.
Yeah.
That's how I'm kind of looking at it.
That's fair.
And I mean, the deep fake on Luke wasn't terrible. I mean, I've heard people put it down. I've heard people say it was great. I look at it like, I mean, it's pretty damn close for a TV series.
And for how much he was in it,
vegan?
For how much he was in the show, and the shots they got, I thought it was pretty flipping good.
Yeah.
Nick, why
you gotta
do you
also
do stuff
understand
like
he's
this in the
been through
chat?
some things. Luke has been through some things. He's not going to look exactly the same as he did at the end of Return of the Jedi. This is some time has passed. He's going to look older. He's going to look a little bit different. He's going to so, that's kind of what they went for. So I didn't think the deep fake was that bad. I mean, he looked like kind of like Luke. I mean, he looked like Luke to me. So I'm like, I've been looking at Luke for 40 years. So I mean, he looked close enough that I'm not going to complain about. I don't expect it to be perfect. Like that's impossible because they can't go back in time and get the actual character because now Mark is 60 years old. You know what I'm saying? How old
looks
he
just
is.
like Mark Hamill.
He's not going to look the same. But I thought that it looked close enough that I mean, it was good enough for me. I wasn't complaining about it. I was like, oh damn, it's cool. They got Luke on here. You know what I'm saying? I didn't judge it I just didn't judge it. I thought it was good enough for me not to care. Like, oh shit, good enough.
Dylan, if you keep being thirsty in the chat, I am going to put you in timeout. I do have the power to do that.
You about to go to YouTube jail.
You're going into YouTube jail. Garrison, how do you
do it, man? We don't want to do it.
We don't want to do it, but you're going to make me. Garrison, so this doesn't go on for another 2 hours. Garrison, how did you feel about the costuming / general appearance of the characters? You can include the deepfake into that.
Right. Well, I didn't think Luke was bad. I thought it was actually pretty good for how much he was in it. Originally, I didn't like Boba Fett's new black under thing, but they wrote it into the story, so then it made me love it.
Yeah.
Because it actually applied and fit into the story, I feel like. Some problems that I did have, for me, the Leku on the Twi'leks, it just looked a little weird to me. It looked a little bit off. It didn't make me...
Especially Ahsoka. That headdress is not...
It doesn't.
It just
fit.
looked.
It doesn't look like Ahsoka.
It looked fake. It looked like someone was wearing a costume.
In the animated series, don't their Leku move independently?
I don't remember.
I know they do in the books. I know because they're sensitive and they can sense stuff with their. But I don't know. It
didn't look ideal. I guess I'll say it looked good, but it didn't look.
That's fair.
It wasn't as immersive as I would have liked. The last one, Chrysanthemum was great, but the last one, Cad Bane, didn't look all that great to me. Okay. He looked good, and I was happy to see him in live action, but something was off about him too.
like
overall, I
900
think
years old. He's not supposed to
Yeah.
look good. I don't know how old what they say, 90? He's 80 or 90
He's
now at this point.
71.
Fair, but
71, so he's pretty old. But they should have made him look older. They kind of, that
Yeah.
soft
was very-
smoothness was kind of,
it just
kind
felt
of-
a little weird to
They
me.
broke up.
His species
Um,
only lives until 70. So the fact that he lived a year past his expiration date,
Expiration date.
he's gonna look like
Good.
crap. Okay.
You can't say whoa there and then agree with me. Like,
Right.
okay, overall, I guess like a 7.
Okay, that's
With
fair.
that,
I'm
yeah.
happy with that. CJ, how did you feel about the costuming? Just
As
general
a fellow
character.
cosplayer, getting back into it all.
Yeah,
Honestly,
you are.
I enjoyed a lot of the costumes. Black Chrysanthemums was the first one we really saw. Like, that was the first real hit. Like, we'd already seen Boba, we'd already seen Fennec. We'd already know what they look like. But when Black Chrysanthemum came walking in, just a behemoth. I mean, he just looked amazing. They really paid attention to him, but I feel like they lacked in other aspects. Like Cad Bane was another, like I agree with Garrison. Cad Bane didn't look like Cad Bane really, but I also took it as he's older, he's dead now. So, but
I don't think he's dead. I think he survived.
that blinking light is not him. That's his droid in his. Stop it, Blinds.
I'm not-
Is in the ship.
I'm not talking about the droid. I'm not talking about the blink of light. I just don't think Cad Bane gets took out by a fucking gaffy stick.
That was awesome.
I just don't think it can happen. Like I really
liked it.
think he survives.
But
I
they
do.
could have focused more on Cad Bane. He could have been more comic book, or not comic book, but Clone Wars canonical, because his gauntlets in Clone Wars weren't blue, and he didn't have his rocket boots. There was a lot missing from that. And I understand with age, I'm pretty sure his legs are pretty frail, so I don't think the rocket boots would be a really
Jesus.
smart idea.
He'd shatter his knees, CJ. He'd be,
Hey,
he'd be
I work
done.
with a guy who's got 2 hip replacements and 2 knee replacements, and he gets off equipment with no problem. So if just go see the modder and get your legs fixed. I don't care. Darth Mullet.
Dylan's going to leave the chat if I don't actually pull this up because he's put it in the chat about 3 times now. It's Twi'lek have Leku, Togruta, which is a Ahsoka species, have Montrals. I will correct. There we go. For the record, it's corrected.
It's
and I didn't think either one looked good.
Yeah, there we go.
I agree with that too.
CJ,
I do
how
agree
would
with that.
how would you rate the costuming?
Overall, I have to give the costuming a 7. Like I said,
Okay.
there were some misses. There were some things that they could have gotten a little bit better and touched up some more. Ahsoka could look more like Ahsoka than kind of like to me, it looked like a cosplayer.
I've seen
That made
cosplayers
it
that have it look
yeah.
better than that.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And
Like
they got really
that
nice.
was kind of, and I hope they fix it before they get to the Ahsoka
They
series.
can't now. They've already put her in 2 series.
Yeah,
with
but-
the same.
But
setup.
they can make it look more realistic, and it's not going to hurt nothing. Because like all up here was kind of like misplaced, and it was kind of off, and her where the little crown or whatever thing that's attached to it or whatever.
Montrell should be part of her head. It looks like she's wearing a hat. That's my issue with it. It looks like it's just.
And I just hope they fix that, make it look more realistic, kind of make it more. They can
attached.
make prosthetics and stuff because we see
yeah.
cosplayers all the time. That stuff you could not tell that's not part of their body, and you could tell that wasn't part of hers. And I hope they fix that by the time they get to the Ahsoka series.
Yeah.
My final little sort of scoring section was the acting. This is my lowest score out of everything. I gave the acting like a 7 out of 10. Ming-Na Wen was fantastic with the really hecking clunky script that she was given. Tamara Morrison smashed it out the park every single time. Love that man to death. Absolutely love him to pieces. My only issue with the acting was I think the mod actors were not great. It was really blank, really flat, and just all of the kind of like outside kind of singular characters, the mods, the desert rats, whatever they were called, their little group. when you've got kind of these arguably almost sort of Shakespearean performances from Tamara Morrison. Like, he is putting his whole Boba Fett into that performance every single time he's on set. And then these mods guys, Vespa guys, are just like, yeah.
That's why they call them background actors. They're secondary.
That's true.
You have
I
the
know,
main stars, and then you have the secondary.
Yeah,
But
so
I do agree with you.
I would give the acting like a 7 out of 10. Kyle, how did you feel about the
acting? Ming and Morrison, they fit together.
Yes, their chemistry is wonderful.
They really sold them parts. The Mandalorian and even Grogu as him not really being a character, but their interactions were good. They were good in The Mandalorian. Boba and Mando, when they're together, great. You know, Tamara Morrison and what's this face? I keep forgetting his name. Great acting together. I think that they have some characters that they should have left in, like Danny Trejo should have been in more episodes.
Yeah.
That kind of left me. That kind of left me like, what the hell? Like, dude, this is like a star actor, you know, and y'all put him in for 13 seconds. I didn't. Their acting was good, but I just think that they missed on that opportunity a little. Yeah, Pedro Pascal. I don't know why I always forget his name, but I do agree with the secondary acting, even like especially when they're sitting around the table and they're all talking. And I know that they're in costumes and they're all that, but it just seemed like it was forced. It seemed like they were trying too hard to be good actors instead of just acting the parts and just making the part good. They were trying to make a name, and it kind of ruined it. I would have to rate it as probably overall, I'd give it a 5 because the great actors was really good. The bad actors was really bad.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? Chris, that's an excellent point. The Hutts were a wasted storyline. I agree with you. I wanted to see more. There was no explanation. We were so convinced that the whole Rancor thing was like a trap and there was a whole thing going on. But no, it was they were there and then they left.
Well, I think that's going to all come into season 2.
That's fair, I suppose. I'm forgetting that they're setting things up for a second storyline. Garrison, how did you feel about the acting?
Okay, am I the you guys know Pelimoto, right?
Yes.
Am I the only one that thinks her acting is just weird? Or do you guys? Is that just me?
Just her
Feels like
character,
they're trying
honestly.
I think it's partly the character writing, but also they're still trying to fill this sort of Jar Jar gap, this kind of odd, quirky,
like comedy relief while also being part of the story.
Yeah,
she throws me off every time I see her. She's funny, but I don't know. She throws me off. But I'd, along with some of the other points you guys had made, I'd probably say like it's 6 or 7. Let's just go 6.
Okay, that is absolutely fair. CJ, how did you feel?
Like Kyle said, I gotta agree with Kyle. Like when it came to the bad acting, it was just bad. You muted me.
I didn't do anything.
The host has muted me. Somebody muted me.
That was my bad. My bad. I was trying to mute myself. I hit the wrong person. I just looked up there and was like, okay, I'm sorry.
When it comes to the bad acting, like Kyle said, and like you said, it was just bad. It was just not even. It would have just been better if they were in the background silent and had a line or two. Yes, Pelimoto is hilarious to me.
The actress herself is a very, very comedic presence anyway.
Yeah, but
I think they should have put like Chris Tucker or Kevin Hart in there.
Kevin Hart.
Not
Kevin Hart.
I think I think they need to bring in like a real comedian to play a part in Star Wars. I don't know. I mean,
let CJ have his score.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I was gonna let you go. No, but honestly, I think overall the serious acting points between Ming-Na and Tem and Pedro Pascal and all that, I think they were great. I think they had some depth to it. I think they really tapped into it and really wanted to take it as a serious role and not as, oh, I'm in Star Wars again. kind of attitude. You know, they took it like it was the scene of their life every time they did it, and I took it all seriously. So I would have to give it a 6.
Okay.
Your point,
No.
Kyle?
No, Nick. Like Dylan was talking about in his show, Cast the Rock. No, the Rock cannot be in Star Wars. I'm tired of
I've heard
seeing.
that so much.
I do not. No, Rock is in everything. I do not want to see the Rock in Star. They bring the Rock in Star Wars, I might stop being a fan. 'Cause I love the Rock. Don't get me wrong. I love the Rock, but I don't want to see him in Star Wars. Like I don't ever want to see the Rock in Star Wars. Like it just no. I don't want to see
As much as I love The Rock, I kind of have to agree. Just seeing The Rock would be like, oh my gosh.
That's
I
the
think
Rock.
that would be such a.
It would suck me out of the story is what would happen.
Like
I
I
just
just don't.
want to see what he does all the time. Like, where's the Rock at in this scene? Like, no, like, stay the way. Rock, if you ever see this, stay the hell away from this franchise. You can have Marvel, you can have DC, you can have anything else. Leave Star Wars alone. I'm not saying that because you suck at acting. I'm saying that because it's just not you. It's not you, bro. It's us as the fans. We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't want it.
I have calculated some lazy averages from your guys' overall scores for my 5 little categories. My scores calculate out to about 8 out of 10. Kyle, yours came to about 6 out of 10 because you were pretty generous with your costuming score, so that helped bump it up a little bit. Garrison, your score was 5 out of 10, nice and square in the middle, and CJ, yours was 6 out of 10 as well.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Okay, I'm gonna bring up some stuff on screen. We'll talk through this. This is the actual ratings from.
I would like to point out.
I think, just as a personal disclaimer, I think story holds more weight than just its own, so I would rank it lower. But
that's fair. That's
good averaging.
I want to point out for our viewers, I've looked at the same statistics Kyle has looked at. Metacritic's reviews are calculated, or at least their audience reviews were calculated on only about 200 entrants. Whereas
you look at
IMBD is looking at about 78,000 votes.
And that's that's less than 1% of actual viewers.
So you're not getting.
I don't at Metacritic. I don't look at their. I look at the critic review because the critic is actual critics that this is what they do for a living. They're looking at everything as a whole. They're not looking at I'm a fan of Star Wars. They're looking at it as an actual series because they criticize every genre of movie or TV. So that's what I look at when I look at Metacritic.
The only other point I would raise is that a lot of these critics and a lot of these publications that are directly critiquing and negatively critiquing Book of Boba Fett are rivals to Disney and owned by rivals to Disney. So it's important to remember that in the case of media, some, not all, I'm not saying none of the critiques are warranted. They absolutely are. Some of these critiques will be in a direct attempt to sabotage Disney's ratings and appearance within public media.
Netflix.
Well, and but then you look at the same thing on because if I rated on IMDb and I rated it as a 5.
Okay.
As an overall series. It's got a 7.6, but that's less than 1% of the actual viewership that they got on the series. So we're looking at this is people a lot of, and something that I've noticed with just talking with people on like Instagram and Facebook and different stuff like that and just listening to other people. A lot of people don't want to be the Karens. They don't want to say something bad, so they don't go in and rate it. And we're looking at a very broad scale. Overall, from what I've seen, and just through all the social medias, Reddit, and the overall skating, I would rate it. If I was looking at it as a whole, I would probably rate it as a 5. If you looked at everything that comes out,
that's fair.
And that's just through just research. Now, the reason I wanted to bring these up is just kind of look at it as overall what people that actually rated were probably getting close to a 7, which is not terribly bad. It's not as good as what Star Wars should do. Because here we got a 7.6 here. If we go over to Rotten Tomato, if you look at the
quite a split between the critics versus the critics approved more than
more
kind of
on
the
Rotten
average.
Tomatoes.
Yeah,
And then the audience gave it a lower score. And then if
Yeah.
you go over to Metacritics,
interesting.
it's not too, it's almost the same. It's 59 is almost a 6, and then 6.3 for the audience. And like Charlie is correct, a lot of this stuff is, people that are rivals. But
Right.
the only reason that I kind of go a little bit against that is because they're paid to write these reviews, and their reviews, if they're giving out bad reviews, they'll lose their job no matter what.
Yeah.
They're paid to make sure that they're looking at things, because there's been people that I've agreed with and people that I disagreed with, but that's, once again, you're going off of, they're criticizing things and they're looking at things in a different aspect than what we're looking at. They're looking at every little thing when they're critical, like Siskel and Ebert, they're looking at every little thing that has to do with it. So when you look at those at professional critics, they kind of they do a little bit more detail than, and they don't have a bias. I still rated, I rated it a 5.6, probably right in there. Originally, I would have rated it way lower, but when I really went back and I really watched it and I looked at some more of the details and some more of the storyline and really looked at it and seen where they were trying to take it, they didn't do that bad of a job.
No.
I think overall, if you would ask every Star Wars fan out there, I think it would probably be a 6, 7, somewhere right in there. A lot of people didn't like it, but there was a lot of people that really loved it and really thought it was done well, and they liked the storyline. But when you're asking the fans, everybody's going to have a bias one way or another.
Very much so.
So that's where it really comes hard. So just to go over real quick, on Metadata, Metacritic, it was a 59 for the actual critics. It was a 6.3 for the fans, and that's only based on 200 fans, which is not that many fans.
Nope.
So that's kind of hard. If you go and you look back at Rotten Tomatoes, we have 73 for the Rotten Tomatoes, which is the actual critics, and then 60 for audience, which is the fans. And then if you go to IMDb, they only show fan ratings anyway, and it's 7.6.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably pretty split.
Not
like
a disaster, not a hit. Depending, I guess it depends. Again, it depends on who you talk to. Like, I want to make sure that people know that we don't, LightSaber Radio never want to present our opinions as facts. We are just here to have a good,
I
healthy
will.
discussion.
I will.
You will.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
My
You do
opinion is
that.
the law. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
That's the thing. These are all just our opinions.
Yeah.
I like it, but I dislike some of the things about it. Now, is it one of those things that I want to watch some Star Wars and that's the first thing I'm going to go to? No, it's not. It's probably going to be lower to the end of the things that I go and watch. I'd much rather watch, the movies or any one of the cartoons or, The Mandalorian before I went to Book of Boba Fett. But if somebody put on the Book of Boba Fett and was like, hey, man, watch the Book of Boba Fett with me, I would watch it again. So, but it's not something that I would choose if I was going to watch some more Star Wars.
All right. So what would you guys rate it personally overall? Oh.
No, go ahead. We're still on the rating thing. This can be after all that.
I'm still set on my 8 out of 10. I sit back and I think about how I felt at the end of each episode, watching it week by week, and the inner child in me was delighted. I loved every second of it. If it's Star Wars, I love it. If it's Star Wars, I want it. I want to watch it. I want to read about it. I want to learn about it. And I see the issues and I see the critiques, and I'm fully happy to sit here and level sort of my own sort of minor issues, but I loved it. I really, really loved it. And it's absolutely on my list of rewatches. Like Kyle said, maybe not the first thing I go to, because I'm still going to sit here and go, yeah, but Phantom Menace. But it's definitely in my wheelhouse of wanting to rewatch it. How did you guys feel? Because we can sum up and
Honestly,
silence.
honestly,
Moment
I
of
would
silence
have
for the
to-
Book of Boba Fett.
With everything that I read growing up and everything that I've read, in the school library, we had all the original books from that they wrote in the 80s and the 90s. I used to check 4 books out at a time. I wasn't a big reader, but when it came to Star Wars books, for some reason, I couldn't get enough of them. And when I got Boba Fett there and when I got Boba Fett here, they're 2 different things. and it was hard for me to adjust and look at it in a different light because of everything that I've read and everything that I've understood and watched. Overall, my personal rating would have to be a 6.
Okay.
Garrison?
Nobody's in
For
shock.
me- yeah, no.
No.
No, because I know how
For
much
me-
you love Boba Fett, and they didn't give you the Boba Fett that you wanted.
Yeah.
That's fair.
For me, I've grown up loving Star Wars, kind of similar to you guys, and so Star Wars has always been up here for me, and so I love it when Star Wars comes out. But for me, instead of when Star Wars comes out, oh, I'm so excited! It's Star Wars. It's already good. For me, it's like it's Star Wars. Is it still up here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I instead of me being just happy that it's Star Wars and ranking it high because it's Star Wars, I don't do that. You know
That's
what I mean?
fair.
So for
Ooh,
me,
that's
when Star Wars doesn't hold up to what I think Star Wars should be, it's just worse than what other people think, probably.
Yeah.
So for me, honestly, like with rewatching the episodes all over again, it got a little bit worse. So I'd rank it like a 3.
That's fair,
Like,
though.
Did not like it, but that's just
We're not going to sit here and tell you that you're wrong.
You're wrong.
We might disagree in this, but I'll tell you that you're wrong behind your back. Kyle, how do you
I'm gonna go
feel?
talk to Tori and tell Tori Garrison's rating
Yeah.
was just wrong. How dare he say it on
Yeah.
a live chat? No.
Disgusting.
Like I said,
God.
so
Joking. Come back.
after
I'm straight.
watching it the first time, I would have probably been with Garrison during the first watch. I would have probably really been like that. Then once I rewatched it again, and now that I rewatched it, sectional. This last time I rewatched it just because I couldn't watch it all at one time. My aspect changed just because I seen what they were trying to do. But I still don't think that I still have that bias that it's not Boba Fett. It's not
fair.
the character that they portrayed him to be. I think that they lied to us, and that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. But at the same time, I see the wonderful part of the story and the redemption and how you can change, and it kind of relates to my own life because I don't ever sit back and try to say that I'm a perfect person and that I haven't made mistakes, but I've changed and I've become a better person, and I think that's what they were trying to show in the story, and I can appreciate that. But at the same time, there was enough things in it that was bad that kind of just put me just like I said earlier, just put a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm gonna stick with what I said yesterday. I'd give it about a 5.
Okay. Well, I can say that after nearly an hour. Oh, sorry, CJ. Sorry,
I have
darling.
one more thing to say. I love that we did this episode today. The full recap on such an
Yeah.
iconic character. Today is actually the first Boba Fett, Jeremy Bulloch, the late Jeremy Bulloch's birthday.
Oh, how
And
wonderful!
I'm glad we got to do this today. I want to wish Jeremy Bulloch, may he rest in peace, a very happy birthday. I hope he's the bounty hunter we want up in heaven.
Nick brought up a very good point. If Kenobi was only this good, what
Bye, Dylan. Have fun with Under the Helmet.
would we think of? Do you think it would be a bigger disappointment?
Yes.
Yeah,
Than
Yes.
this?
for me.
They've been
I'm going to tell
secret.
everybody right now a secret. Okay, this is a secret. All right. Kenobi is not going to be this action-packed
No.
thing. They're going
I've
to tell a
accepted that.
story with Kenobi because there's a lot of information that they're going to try to fill in this Kenobi series. So I need everybody's expectations. That's why they're not blowing up these, no thriller, all filler. They're not saying none of this stuff. They're keeping us in the dark because they want us to feel the story. They want us to really feel what's going on with Kenobi. This is Kenobi's story after he has to take Luke to Tatooine.
Self-exile.
this is not going to be the Kenobi that everybody thinks that we're going to see a bunch of lightsaber scenes and him doing a bunch of stuff. It's going to be in there. They're going to put it in there, but there's going to be a lot more storytelling. I have a great feeling, and this is one of those feelings that I don't think I'm going to be wrong about, that it's going to be a lot of slow storytelling to give us the depth that we need to understand what Kenobi is going through at this time. And I think if it is written well, it's going to give us a different sense of where Star Wars can truly be. It's going to give us a whole new aspect of, but if we go into it believing that this is going to be this action-packed, Kenobi, lightsaber flying around, him saving the galaxy, it's not going to be that. His job is to protect Luke.
I can honestly say if the writing is good and the story is good, I don't need action. Just as long as the writing and story is good.
I think that that's what it's going to be. I really have a feeling that Kenobi is going to be one of those things that it's going to be more sentimental. It's going to have more emotion in it. And it's going to show his struggle and trying to deal with learning this stuff that Yoda taught him, trying to talk to, his master that don't ever show up. Because if you go back to the book, it took a long time before Qui-Gon ever says anything to him. Before he ever sees the Force Ghost. I don't even think he sees the Force Ghost in the thing. I think he just talks to him. So it's going to be a while.
Hears his voice. That's all.
I think that he has to go through that to become the Jedi that can train to get Luke on the right path, and they have to show us that. I think it's going to be great. I really do think the story is going to be great. I think they really took the time out, because you got to remember, this part of this is from the movie that they was going to make the movie. I think they just cut the movie up, and I think it's going to have a drastic end. We all know that Vader's in it. At some point, he has to fight. Him and Vader have to fight. At some point, he has to fight an Inquisitor. So there's going to be some action in there. But I think they're going to really focus on the story, and people are going to be like, oh, it's just filler episodes. But then filler episodes is going to be very dramatic and very sincere on the story. And I think it's going to be excellent. I have high expectations for Kenobi, and I don't think they're going to let us down on this. I don't think that they can afford to let us down on this. But I think people need to go in with the expectation it's not going to be just lightsabers flying every episode and him doing, just spectacular Jedi stuff. It's going to be more based on him being in isolation and learning to deal with being alone. When you've been in this Jedi temple your whole life with all these people and all these other Jedis that you can learn from and lean to, and he doesn't have that. So it's going to be a lot of being by yourself and learning techniques by yourself. I do think there's going to be some Jedi writings or texts that he might find, or even maybe a temple on Tatooine, which is going to be real nice. But I think it's going to be more of that basis. And if everybody goes in with that idea, I don't think nobody's going to be disappointed. I think Kenobi's going to definitely rank high, even with the older people that have been wanting this for a very long time. I think it's really going to be. I think that's what it's going to be, and I have a really, really strong feeling about this one.
I would like to point out everybody needs to listen to Darth Sway's Strong Feelings, because Nick and I have been listening through to the previous Boba Fett episodes. His predictions in the Return of the Lord Vader episode, when we announced that Hayden Christensen was returning for the Kenobi series, are spot on. In that same episode, CJ also predicted the Ahsoka "You're so much like your father" line. So both of you, absolutely on it, 100% on it. And
I just know John and Dave.
Do know John and Dave.
They've been around for a long time, and I just know how their writing is, and I know how they think about things, and I know how, I understand that Disney bought Lucasfilms, and Disney says what's canon now, and all that stuff. But I know that John and Dave and Kathleen, they are pushing to stick to the canon timeline as close as they possibly can. And this is a story that has to fill in that big plot hole. Like, what happened during this time? We just came into him being there. Luke is 17 years or 18 years old, when he shows up. What happened from birth to that time? And I think this series is going to show us what happens with Luke and what happens with Kenobi to fill in them plot holes. And I think that John and Dave are going to stick so close to the timeline that it's going to make us all of our heads go, what the hell? Because they care about keeping that. Even though we know it's not part of the canon timeline, they're going to keep it part of the canon timeline. And that's what makes them so special.
Before I wrap us up and say goodbye, Chris, you are absolutely correct. Jimmy Spitz is returning as Bail Organa in the Kenobi series and in the Andor series. That has been a confirmed leak.
I'm just like, I hope that Andor is just like, they have to just like blow my mind to make me want to watch.
Don't get me started. We're going to save it for Saturday because I am knackered. I love all of you to pieces, and I could keep going on this.
Oh, did you say naked? Oh, I thought you said naked. I was going to say, what did you?
She's wearing a sweatshirt.
Tired.
Everybody, make sure that you tune in on Saturday because we're going to have details on here.
Very, very special.
And that is going to be a great episode. He's coming in. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff in Star Wars, so he can give us a little bit of insight on the things that he's enjoyed doing. What else do we get? The 26th, everybody, we are pushing the 26th. The 26th is going to be awesome for the cosplay show. It's probably going to be our longest show ever because we got a lot of stuff to cover. We got a lot of cosplayers that's going to come in and inspire us and tell their stories. So definitely make sure you guys promote that for us. If you
guys got to come check out Garrison's cosplay. I think that's the most important thing.
I'm
going to point that out right now. It's a big
It's going to be a hilarious show, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So,
night, Alex. Thank you so much for joining us, darling. I really, really appreciate it. Miss you.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for joining us.
I'm going to plug it one more time. I'm hanging out with Clone Army Radio tomorrow. I'm super, super excited to spend some time with some really awesome Star Wars fans. We are busy at the moment, guys. So as always,
and I'm going to try, if I possibly can, I'm going to see how to do it, but I'm going to try to make sure that I put that on our podcast platform.
Yes.
So you guys can go and listen to it on theirs or on ours, either one. I'm pretty sure I can get a hold of it.
Star Wars Team Leader, we're planning on hosting our cosplay video like our usual Saturday shows. So it will be YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're able to find us and watch us. We'll be having cosplayers on for various amounts of time, people coming and going and joining in. It's going to be a whole thing. We'll have some more details coming soon. I promise. As always,
I saw that, Chris. I know. Push the button.
We are on the t-shirt designs, Chris. Don't you worry. We are on it. As always, join us every Wednesday and Saturday for our live shows. You can find us on all major social media platforms. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel because it means the absolute galaxy. Drop this video a like if you liked it, and we will see you guys on Saturday. As always, be kind, be safe, and may the force be with all of you always.
Who's pushing the button?
Thank
you for tuning into LSR. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing so you can be notified when new episodes are released. If you would like to be a guest on the show or just want to give us some feedback, feel free to email us. You can also reach out to us on all major social media platforms. They're linked in the show notes below. LightSaber Radio is produced by Pick Film Media and is a Swaycast original, starring Charlie Harwood, Garrison Turcott, CJ Elliott, and Carl McDaniel. And don't forget to join us next time for more adventures in a galaxy far, far away.